This episode of the Young Turks is brought to you by GoToMeeting, online meetings made easy. And you can get a free 30-day trial if you go to gotomeeting.com/Turks.
Right as we were ending the program last night, Richard Holbrooke passed away. He is a longtime diplomat for the United States, well known, of course, for his role in helping to end the war in Bosnia. He served in many different roles in many different Democratic administrations, stretching all the way back to John F. Kennedy. He served diplomatic roles in Vietnam. In the case of Indonesia, there's some controversy around what he did there when he was in charge of Southeast Asian affairs for the Carter administration. And then he also wrote part of the Pentagon Papers. And the Pentagon Papers, which in part admitted, oh yes, we're doing this for U.S. prestige and not so much to fight communism or to help Vietnam. Now, he didn't necessarily write those sections, but he wrote pieces of the Pentagon Papers that said that in there in certain portions, right? So, and then obviously later on with Bill Clinton, wound up working on the Bosnia Accords. Look, there's been great praise and great criticism of Richard Holbrooke in all these different dealings. Probably both deservedly so, and diplomacy is a tough business and you make some tough choices. So he's passed away, and I think, you know, those choices will be left up to history to decide, okay? And I'm torn on some of them, I really am. I mean, on the one hand, it takes a lot of cold-bloodedness to let some of the things that happen. And then on the other hand, obviously get some great results in places. And of course, he was working on the deal on, at this point, Afghanistan and Pakistan, and to help Barack Obama on that. In the meanwhile, by the way, he went and served in the financial services industry, Lehman Brothers, later Credit Suisse, First Boston, etc., and had made a decent living there. You're going to be not shocked to find out. And you know, one other thing I get from these bios that drive you, I was going to say drive me crazy, but they don't really drive me crazy. It's just interesting, right? It turns out, of course, everybody's connected to somebody, right? So it turns out his family was family friends with Dean Rusk, who was, you know, an incredibly influential statesperson back then, and then that helped him to get involved in this line of work, etc. It's like you find out Sean Penn's mom was an actor or an actress, whatever, right? I don't even remember the specifics of it, but in the end, you know, unfortunately, it's a little depressing because then you think, like, does a random guy in the middle of Pennsylvania really have a chance, right? Or do you secretly have to know Dean Rusk? I don't know, right? And the thing is, that's what part of makes Obama's disappointment even more disappointing. Because Obama looked like he was one of us, just a regular guy, born in Kansas, single mother, went to Hawaii, raised by the grandparents and the mom. I mean, just, there's no Bilderberg group, right? But turns out he's pro-Bilderberg anyway, in a manner of speaking. Anyway, so let's get to the most interesting part of the Holbrooke story, right? So Richard Holbrooke, as he was about to undergo surgery, apparently told his doctors, according to sources that were there, his last words: "You've got to stop this war in Afghanistan." Okay. Now, that reverberated throughout the world, because here's one of our top diplomats on what wound up being his deathbed, on his last words, saying, "You've got to stop the war in Afghanistan." Okay, so very, very clear and powerful, right? The White House has come out today and said that he was joking. Let me repeat the words verbatim. "You've got to stop this war in Afghanistan." What a stitch this guy is, man. Right before he's about to go to surgery that could end his life and wound up actually ending his life, he's joking around about the war in Afghanistan. Really? I mean, sometimes, you know, State Department and Defense Department and United States propaganda just, it stretches the imagination for what you can accept. By the way, now that they have said this, I guarantee you, the rest of the media will start covering it like, oh no, obviously he was joking. You gotta send the war in Afghanistan. Get it, Doc? I know I got an aorta problem, but come on, Afghanistan, end it. That's crazy, right, Doc? So here's the official explanation as to why they think he was joking. Now remember, he's in charge of diplomacy in this area. And some have said that he had objections to the war, objections to the large surge. Now others claim otherwise. It's a mixed record, right? But here's what the State Department spokesperson, P.J. Crowley, told reporters. At one point, the medical team said, look, you got to relax. And Richard said, I can't relax. I'm worried about Afghanistan and Pakistan. This is supposed to be the conversation that's happening as he's got the aorta problem, bleeding internally, going on, about to go to surgery. And then the doctors tell him, tell you what, we'll try to fix this challenge while you're in surgery, about Afghanistan and Pakistan. And Holbrooke says, yeah, see if you can take care of that, including ending the war. Now here's the only problem. That's not what was reported at all in the first place. There was none of that. It just was the quote, you've got to stop the war in Afghanistan. Not, okay, all right, listen, you do this and I'll do this. And Afghanistan, aorta, internal bleeding. Or could it be possible that he knew it was his last words, and we don't know what's in his mind, and I don't, right? But is it possible that he knew that this is the last time he's going to get to say something, and he thought, look, I've been knee deep in this, and it isn't going to work, and for the love of God, somebody do something. Stop this war. I don't think he was really addressing it to the doctors. I don't think the doctors were thinking, oh, you know what, let's go and fix it. Now, is it possible that it was originally misreported, and the more correct reporting is this joking around back and forth that the State Department is talking about? Look, I'm not saying it's not possible, right? But I've seen way too much propaganda from our guys, which then you find out through WikiLeaks and other places aren't true at all. For us to just naively say, oh yeah, oh of course, absolutely. Yeah, no, Holbrooke was a stitch, and he was absolutely just palling around with the doctors about ending the war in Afghanistan. Hey, listen, you make your own call on that, okay? Now you got both sides of the story. And these days, everybody's in different offices in different cities. The one way you can all get together is gotomeeting.com. You're all online at the same time.
Right, and it's super easy. All you need is a computer, internet connection, 2 minutes, boom, you're set up.
You can share documents. A guy puts up a document in Miami, the other one sees it in San Francisco. You can, in fact, amend it. You can do sales presentations, very convenient.
And the best part of all this is that you get a free 30-day trial by going to gotomeeting.com/Turks.
Go.